gains and a low unemployment rate. Inflation has eased substantially from a peak of 7% to 2.7%, but is still too high. We are strongly committed to returning.
This is MXUX. You know, the Fed basically projected a hard landing today, holding rates steady. Personally, I think they should have cut at the end of last year, the beginning of this year. I just wanted to make this video to give you my my view of this whole thing and how, you know, I don't know if everybody's misinformed or nobody wants to talk about it. I don't hear these topics coming up anywhere else. But in so many ways, the Fed is just pushing on string. Monetary policy is not the whole answer here. Let's say that. I'm no Nobel laureate economist, but I do have a view on this, and I think that fuel prices are being rigged since 21 from corruption, and I've got some evidence of that here. And you know, fuel is a component of every product you buy, and that's inflationary. The prices remained high. Housing costs are stubbornly high, and we've got two factors here that are beyond interest rates, that aren't going to make any difference with interest rates, that are keeping housing prices high, and the government's acting on some of it, and some of it they're not. And finally, I think, and I've tried to explain this, and it's a hard concept to understand, this is fiscal inflation. It's not monetary inflation. At least a lot of it is fiscal. By that I mean they are issuing bonds to pay the national debt that are paying 5.25%. Those interest payments are going out to people that are buying those bonds. That income is inflationary. You know, they could have borrowed money for 1%, 0% during COVID, billions of dollars, and had a stockpile of money or paid off the entire national debt, but they didn't do it because, you know, they don't know what they're doing. But now they're stuck paying 5%. This is like, you know, they're paying on a credit card, and the interest is going back in the economy. It's inflationary. Let me get to this. Okay, this first topic is oil prices, and this is very easy. This is all corruption. Most of this is corruption of one type or another. It shows a lack of activity by the governments that we operate under. We have a cartel, which is the American oil producers. I'm not going to go into details. You could pull up this article or one similar to it. The American oil producers got together with the Saudi cartel, and they decided to fix oil prices at the start of the pandemic. And they ensured that oil prices remained high by limiting output and so forth. And it was completely contrived. And as you know, energy, fuel, gasoline is a component of everything we buy. Everything has a fuel cost. It has to be transported, harvested, warehoused, whatever. So the Fed interest rate is going to have nothing to do with this. Now, thank goodness the Department of Justice is investigating this finally. Years too late. It'll take years to settle this. I don't know why there aren't some presidential actions on this, executive orders. The second inflation component here that the Fed isn't going to have is having very little effect over is housing costs. I'm going to have a couple clips here. This first one is a guy who studied Airbnb, and he statistically analyzed this. It's raising rents, it's throwing people out of their homes, and it is a negative effect on housing and housing affordability. And there's a question as to what the overall gain is to the economy. But this again is corruption in the sense that many local communities have passed laws limiting Airbnb. There's no enforcement. These rules are ignored by these Airbnb hosts. And I know I checked around my area here, and there was within 2 blocks there's 20 Airbnbs. There are no neighborhoods. Again, housing shortage, rent increases. Take a look at this clip and notice the nomenclature here, and you can take a look at this yourself. But interest rates aren't going to have, they're going to have some effect on Airbnb, but Airbnb needs to be addressed, I believe, at a national level. There have to be zoning requirements, as there are zoning requirements for hotels, so on and so forth. Take a look at this clip.
If you look at the data for Newburgh, 114 Airbnb listings, 99 of them are entire homes, only 15 are private rooms. Between 2016 and 2023, the number of Airbnb listings grew 1,000%.
Murray Cox is a researcher and data activist, founder of Inside Airbnb. Since 2015, he has been tracking the company using data from Airbnb listings worldwide to analyze the company's effect on housing.
Airbnb impacts long-term rentals, basically by taking housing off the market. So there are pretty long-held rules that if you take housing off the market, that's going to push the price of rentals up. In New York City, there's one study done that New Yorkers were paying $616 million more because of Airbnb. And then another study that said, on average, New Yorkers were paying about $384 per year more in rent because of Airbnb.
Okay, I'm sure you get the idea with Airbnb. It's pretty obvious, but nobody's doing anything about it. To protect renters, basically, are the ones that are getting hurt the most, and some homeowners. Now, there's this second new app or software program that's organizing all the landlords into a cartel, and there is no market discovery of rents. They are price fixing using cartel pricing to fix rents on rental units. And they're controlling entire cities. I believe this has to do with a couple cities in Arizona, this clip. But, and again, in my area, there are apartments that are empty. And it's because these prices are being fixed, and the landlords are able to up their rents to the point where they don't care if they have empty apartments. And you know, guys, we got homelessness, we got affordability problems, and we've got cartel pricing. Now, like the oil problem, this is finally getting addressed by the Department of Justice. Very late, in my opinion. This has been going on, and I don't know why Biden or whoever the president may end up being doesn't put out executive orders on this stuff, because this is ridiculous. This is hurting all of us and our quality of life.
It's alleged that all of these different units, their prices were set by one single algorithm, which sounds bad.
And it could be happening in cities and states across the country. Renters have filed over 30 different lawsuits against RealPage.
We're going to talk about what all this means, how algorithms, these black boxes of data, are shaping our markets and giving an incredible amount of power to the few, and how the Department of Justice and some state attorney generals are fighting back. Because this is a story about how a few lines of code broke the American housing market.
What is RealPage?
So RealPage is a company that operates software that allows landlords to input their data into an algorithm, and then RealPage sets the prices for all of those landlords. This is actually against the law.
Attorney General Mays isn't the only one alleging this.
Our allegation.
That housing thing, the more you look into that, that's really terrible. It's about time they do something about this. Now, this final specific I want to mention here is this idea of fiscal inflation. So when you have monetary inflation, that means people are running up too many credit card bills, and they're spending money they don't have, and banks are lending too loosely, and there's too much money in the economy. I don't know, I think it's the velocity of money, and certainly the money supply is high. That's monetary inflation. Fed policy works on that. But, and again, I'm no economist, and this is a hard concept to understand, but this is fiscal inflation. Is, we don't have those two problems. Basically, what we have is fiscal inflation. The government debt is larger than all the social programs in the defense budget. Okay, larger than Social Security, Medicare, and the defense budget is the deficit, and we are fueling funding the deficit, paying the debt with bonds. Okay, and they sell bonds, and that pays the interest on the debt, right? Well, and you can read what's highlighting here. The point is, the Fed funds rate is what's setting the interest rate on our national debt, and we are paying 5.25% credit card rates just to pay the interest. Imagine you got a credit card and you're paying the interest on the credit card, right? And interest only payment, and 5.5%. And every time the Fed raises rates, it raises our payment on the debt. And I'm not a big deficit hawk guy and all that, but the point is, this money that is being paid out to these bondholders who buy Treasury bonds, the 5.25%, the Fed funds rate, which is what that is going into the pockets of people. So rather than spending money that they don't have on credit cards and everything, they are making 5.5% T-bill and chill. They're making money on their federal interest rate payments to them, the bond premiums they got for buying Treasury bills. And normally that's not that big of a component of the economy, but the point is, the deficit and the funding of the deficit's the biggest single thing that's being funded by the government right now. So these payments that are coming out of these Treasury bill sales, the T-bill and chill money, is inflationary. And every time the Fed raises rates, it has the diametrically opposed effect they want. It's putting more money into the economy. It's not clamping down on the economy, although this is a very complex topic, but you have to look at this as a meaningful component of this overall argument. And so in this sense, the Fed funds rate is meaningless, or at least partially meaningless in this economy. This is not going to solve the problem. We've got to have massive growth to work our way out of this. And the thing is, the Fed funds rate was 1%, 0% during the pandemic. The Fed could have sold millions and billions of dollars worth of Treasury bills, and they could have funded the entire, you can read this highlighted here, they could have funded the entire deficit with 1% money. But, they were too stupid. They didn't do it, They didn't do it. They let the thing slip away. It's like refinancing your mortgage. Everybody refinanced their mortgage at these low rates. That's why they're locked into their houses. We could have refinanced the deficit with 1% money if the Fed and the Treasury Department was smart enough. They would have done that. But higher rates for longer in this train of thought, in this scenario, are just going to maintain or increase inflation because, again, the T-bill and chill money is going to go back into the economy. The deficit is bigger than Medicare, Social Security, and the defense budget combined. So the interest payment on that at 5.25% is a massive amount of money. And then you couple that with the government spending that's going on now, which I think is needed. But we got to have growth. We got to have growth. What we need are cuts, we need anti-corruption, we need to address the other problems mentioned here, and we need growth. I just want to wrap this up now. Another component I didn't include here, which is killing everyone, and it's a big part of this inflation, is car insurance. And again, this is a fraudulent increase. This needs to be investigated by the Department of Justice. These car insurance rates need to be rescinded. These rates were requested during the pandemic when there were high-risk drivers only. All the crazy people were out during lockdown wrecking their cars. There was supply chain. None of these conditions that warranted the increase in these auto insurance rates exist anymore. And they need to be rescinded. And, you know, Congress, Department of Justice, executive order. I don't know why. Everybody's sitting there saying, oh, my God, it's so high. These are unfair increases. But, you know, you look at the oil cartel, right? Boosting up prices. You know, that's corruption. They're on that, mostly. Then you got the housing. And they're partially addressing that, but Airbnb is another big component there that just nobody seems to know what they're doing with that. And as I said, even when they pass local, there's no enforcement. I mean, it's ridiculous. Someone has to put their foot down with Airbnb, okay? It's not working the way it is. It's displacing too many people. It's raising rents too much. It's not working the way it was intended to. It was a great idea with good intentions to start, and it's become a monster. It needs to be approached. But all of these things are things that are, you know, obviously the Fed funds rate affects everything, but, you know, what's his name? Elmer Fudd getting up there and giving these speeches, and, you know, I think he thinks he's a movie star or something. Him raising rates, holding rates, this, as we can see from the last year, it's not effective. It's not working. So we need a call to action to somebody here, okay? And if we have to wait till after the elections for something to happen, that may be too late. I don't know. We have very ineffective government, and nobody's looking at this stuff. What the heck is going on?